Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous crochet flower bouquet. These single zinnias work up so quick you can use any color yarn at all, and they just bring a splash of color and fun into any decor. And yes, if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, they're available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. To make your crochet flower bouquet, you'll need a bunch of flowers. So I'll be walking you through this step by step. You'll also need either some knitting needles. These are just little wooden ones, super cute and super cheap. You could also use barbecue skewers. These are bamboo skewers with a little button glued to the top. You could also glue a bead or anything that will hold that flower on. So scraps of yarn, whatever colors you want your flowers to be. Keep in mind you can do a different color for your centers. You'll need a crochet hook. I am using a 5mm crochet hook. And you will also need a pair of scissors. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back in to where you're at, and let's get started. We are going to start by making a magic ring. If you would rather do a chain 3 ring, go ahead. Just leave a long enough tail at the end where you can sew your center closed with your tail. To start your magic ring, just lay your tail over your non-dominant hand and hold it down on your ring finger. Wrap it around your 2 fingers, making an X, and bring it around that 3rd finger, just holding it underneath your thumb. Turn your hand over, you'll have a short strand and a long strand. Take your crochet hook, hook side facing down, and just slide it down underneath that short strand. Grabbing the long strand, bringing it under, pointing the hook towards yourself, releasing your thumb a little bit so this long loop can slide. Grabbing the long loop, pinching right underneath your hook, just pinch that, and bring that yarn through the loop on your hook, and there is your magic ring. Now to start, we are going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So this counts as our first double crochet, and we want to work into the center of our ring and over our tail. So wrap your yarn and into the center of your ring, 7 double crochets. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, if I'm going too fast or too slow, you can adjust me by hitting that little gear on the video. You can also just pause the video and get caught up. So there is our chain 3 and our 7 double crochets. This counts as 8 double crochets. And now just close your ring. We don't have to make it super tight right now. We can leave it a little bit open. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to join. Right over there, we're going to slip stitch. So pop your hook in, 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook, and slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And that finishes the center of our flower. To start round 2, insert your hook into any space. We're going to be working in between these stitches. So not into the stitch, but just in between those posts. So just slide your hook in, loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, just holding it along the side of your work, and chain 2. 1 and 2. So this counts as our first double crochet, and into that very same space, we're going to do 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I'm going too fast, just click that gear on the video and slow me down or speed me up, whatever suits you. You can also pause the video and get caught up. So pull your hook up just to give yourself a bigger loop, and we're going to insert our hook into the top of that chain to join. Just the top of that chain, and we want 2 strands on the top of our hook, just like that. So pop your hook in. Put that loop back on your hook and just hold the top of your hook with your finger so that loop doesn't slide off. Shrink it down and bring it through. And chain 2. 1 and 2. Now into the next space, after that next stitch, just right there, we are going to do 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull your hook up and take your hook out. Now we want to look for our very first double crochet of that set right here. So if you just slide your hook along, it is that stitch right there. You can also count your V's going back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go right into that first double crochet we made. Put your loop back on your hook, just holding it onto your hook. Shrink it down and bring it through and chain 2. 1 and 2. So we're going to do that into each space all the way around. So into the next space, 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hook up and out and into that very first stitch. Just slide your hook in, loop back on your hook, shrink it down, turn your hook so your hook matches the size of your stitch or the shape, bring it through and chain 2. 1 and 2. So you can pause the video and keep working around doing a 5 double crochet popcorn into each of these spaces all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. More left-handed crochet tutorials. There are more than 160 of my easy left-handed tutorials in this playlist right here. When you get back to your last space, I have my tail there, so I'm just going to work over my tail as well. You can just start your double crochet into that spot. But what you might want to do is just flip that first popcorn down just to get it out of the way. We don't want to be snagging it when we're doing our double crochets. So just pinch that first popcorn down and finish your last popcorn into that last space. So there is my last popcorn and my chain 2. We're just going to slip stitch right over into that first space. Just right over into that space is where we want to be. So 1 little slip stitch to join. And that finishes round 2, or the first round of our petals. And now we are ready to start round 3. To start round 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into that same space right there, we're going to do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and slip stitch into that same space to finish off that petal. 1 slip stitch. Now jump over to the next space and slip stitch again. Just like that. Chain 2, 1 and 2, 3 double crochets into that same space, 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and slip stitch into that same space. Slip stitch. Slip stitch into the next space to start our next petal, and chain 2, 1 and 2. So each petal starts with a slip stitch, a chain 2, then 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and a chain 2, and a slip stitch. So you can pause the video and keep working along. Each space gets a slip stitch, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and slip stitch. So we're going to do that into each space all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you reach back to where we began, I've done my slip stitch to finish off that petal. And we're just going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and turn your work. So we're going to be working into the back of our flower. And now look for this single crochet, or that stitch right there. We're going to be doing a front post slip stitch around that stitch. So go down before the stitch and come out right after it, and slip stitch, and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to look for the next one. So we're going to go down kind of underneath this petal and up underneath the center of the next petal. That's going to get us around that stitch. So down under the petal and up under the next petal. Tighten your yarn a little bit, give it a pull, and slip stitch, and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to find the next one. So we're going to go in under the petal and out under the next petal. Just like that. And slip stitch. So front post slip stitch. And chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. In under the next petal and out under the petal after that. I'm going to do our front post slip stitch just there. Slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I can pause the video and keep working around doing a front post slip stitch around each post of the row down under, and a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the way around your flower, and I'll meet you when you get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, we are just going to slip stitch to join. So we're going to go right into that little stitch right there. That is where we're going to slip stitch. So just slide your hook in, just into that little stitch, and slip stitch to join. And chain 2. 1 and 2. Now turn your work, and we're going to go and slip stitch right into this first space. 1 slip stitch. We want to be right in the middle of that space, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Into the same space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2, and into the next space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into that same space just to finish off our petal. 1 slip stitch. Chain 3 to start your next petal, and 2 double crochets into that same space. There is 1 and 2. Into the next space, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch. So our petals are being spread out over 2 of these spaces down below. So into that same space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. So into the space, this is what we're going to do into each space all the way along. Just fold those petals forward so we can see those spaces along the back of our flower. So into each space, we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 2 double crochets. So there is 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You can slide those stitches back if you need some more room, and 2 double crochets. So that's what we're putting into each space all the way around. It's kind of like a little heart shape. So into the next space, 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 2 double crochets. So there's my first 2 double crochets, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. So you can pause the video and keep working along. 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 2 double crochets into each of these spaces all the way along, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When we finish our last set of stitches into that last space, we are right back where we started. So into that space where we started, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 2, 1 and 2. Now we're going to slip stitch into that space to join, or to pin down that last petal, 1 slip stitch, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. And there is your super cute flower. And now turn it over. We want to do our tails. So really tug on that center one where our magic ring is. We want that to be nice and snug. That is what is going to hold our flower up on the stem. So pull that nice and snug. And knot these 2 together, the ones that match in color. You, of course, are welcome to sew in your tails if you prefer to do that. So the first knot I do a bit loose. I don't pull it really hard. The second one I snug down, but not really hard. The third one, this is the one I pull, because we have enough knots there where we're not going to pull our working yarn or the yarn from our flower off center. So that is really nice and secure. Of course, you can sew them in if you want, and then just cut your tails. Now for your outside tail, your petal color, you can use a needle and just sew it in to get it closer to your starting yarn if you feel like it. I don't feel like it. I'm just going to tie mine off. So I'm just going to bring that outside yarn down, and I'm going to knot it near the center one. You, of course, can do a much tidier job if you want to, or if anyone's going to see underneath your flower, of course, do a nicer job. But nobody's going to be seeing mine. I'm just going to be putting mine in a cute little planter. I'll take them off and wash them when they get dirty, so I'm not really bothered by it. But if you're selling them or something like that, you could go ahead and do a tidier job of this one. But if it's just for you and nobody's going to see it, this is how to do it without even using a needle. So you can see it's not really tight, but it is not near the edge. Right? So now I'm just going to cut that off. Just like that. And there is your flower. When all of your flowers are done and you have tied off all of your ends, grab your knitting needles or your barbecue skewers, whichever one you are using, and we are ready to do the fun part, which is making our flowers. So grab a knitting needle or a barbecue skewer, grab a flower, and just pop it right down the center where we stitched it closed, that magic ring. And it will be nice and snug. Just slide that knitting needle all the way through, or that barbecue skewer. And there is our first flower. If your flower is a bit loose and doesn't stay up at the top of your knitting needle, you can use a rubber band and just kind of put the rubber band up at the end of your knitting needle, and that will hold your flower up also, just like that. And now go ahead and do that for the rest of your flowers. Just sliding them up either your barbecue sticks or your knitting needles. So I hope you enjoyed making your bouquet as much as I enjoyed making mine. I'm waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.